Good morning. Let me start by thanking all of you for having me. It's an honor to be at the Sadhana Center. And I've heard about the Sadhana Center from one of your board members, Mr. Jeroninio. And it's a pleasure to be here with Professor Pillai and all the students. So thank you for having me, Professor Pillai and all the students. And Anita for making my hospitality, taking care of hospitality. It was great to hear the presentation before this. Great work which is being done by Wadi who are running e-farms. I think it's a real good model of social entrepreneurship because that's what we believe in. As iCONGO, the Indian Confederation of NGOs, that was founded around 6 years ago. We believe in humane capitalism and not the buzzword called CSR because it's a very abused word. And I think that's a really great word because the farmers in India need a lot of interventions. I'm happy to see that is happening. Just to kind of tell you a little about what the farmers are facing, that after the farmer loans were announced around a few years ago, 66,000 crores were announced as farmer waivers. None of the farmers have actually got access to that money. Yeah? The reason being that farmers only with 5 acres and more of land can actually access the money. We work with farmers in areas like Dhule and Jalgaon, and farmers have been given checks of 500 rupees as farmer waivers, which is like a cruel joke. Farmers who lost their houses in the hailstorm which happened last November have got checks for around 2,000 rupees to build their houses, rebuild their houses. It costs around 60,000 rupees to make mud houses, forget anything else. So this is the kind of democracy we live in, and I think that is the biggest problem that we are facing in the education system. While we all learn so-called wealth creation, which is all about paper money, like was pointed out by Rebecca also, I try to figure out sometimes when we don't have a proper environment, proper farmland, what will we eat? Will we eat the BMWs that we possess, or will we start eating paper money? So I don't understand this entire concept of wealth creation that is touted a lot in various forums, but I think somebody has to kind of relook and revisit what wealth creation means. What I'm going to do today is not a very structured presentation because I don't think that's the right way to kind of talk to youngsters who are our future generation. I'm kind of going to give you some facts and figures so that I can provoke some thought process as to how you need to really be leaders in the years to come. I personally have a basic problem with education in India because I feel that a lot of us are not trained to be good citizens. And I say that because we live in a democracy. How many of you are aware of the word democracy and what it means? Please put your hands up. Can I ask you what does democracy mean? For the people, by the people. Good. Anybody else? Democracy has a simple definition, 2 words.
It can be the access to the poorest of the pyramid. Access of power to the poorest.
Access to the poorest of the pyramid. How many of you think we live in a democracy? More hands going up. How many of you think we live in a banana republic? So, in a banana republic. Thank you. I saw somewhere in Dr. Pillai's note which said that nation first, society next, and self last. But we've gone actually to a stage where it's self first and nothing else. It takes a 26/11 to wake us up, only because the terror comes home to Bombay. Till then, the Bombayites were sleeping. Till then, the Delhiites were sleeping. Till then, the entire nation was sleeping because there's terror which has been happening in the northeast, there's terror which has been happening in Gujarat, there's terror which is happening all over, and nobody wakes up to it. Because we live in this banana republic where we think everything is hunky-dory. We are fed lies that 47% of us are well-to-do, and that's utter rubbish. 80% of the people have no proper meals to eat. They don't have an education system. How many of you have actually gone to rural India and seen how the education system works in government schools? I have, because I spent my weekends over there. And I'm not trying to kind of boast about myself, but the point is that children who are fed rice, which is boiled in turmeric and chili powder, when on the fancy blackboards outside the school, they have this entire menu which is put up there that rice, dal, sabji, and other things are given to the child. And this is like an unwritten code, because all the schools are doing the same thing. The headmasters and the teachers in the schools have this attitude of being a Brahmin and a Kshatriya, and they think they're doing a favor to the other backward classes. But the point is, it's taxpayers' money, and they have no right to misuse it or mismanage it. But that's what is happening. So how can the education system work when 80% of your people are not getting proper education? And I'll show you some facts and figures over there also. The teachers are not doing their job. They're busy lobbying with politicians and doing their political rallies when they should be teaching. We work with a group of volunteers who've actually educated and brought around 62,000 children, up to date in terms of reading and recognizing numbers. It took around 600 volunteers to do that, to reach out to 62,000 children. Now these 600 volunteers in 2 months taught the students to read and write and recognize numbers. And when I spoke to the teachers, they were like, the volunteers are doing a great job. And my point to them was, they're here because you're not doing your job. The children have been in your school for 3 years and they've not been able to read and recognize numbers. So what are you doing? Why are you busy running after politicians? I mean, that's not your job, right? So that's the education system. Well, coming to the great Indian middle class, the IITs and the IIMs and all the nice MBA schools, and I do a lot of sessions on ethics and values in these schools, only these schools which I prefer to go to, not the ones which I don't want to go to. How many of you have heard of a chap called Satish Shetty?
I have a friend called Satish Shetty.
You all live in Pune and you've not heard of Satish Shetty? That's appalling. Yes, the boy was murdered around 4 months ago. RTI activist, 38-year-old Satish Shetty was murdered in broad daylight, as they say. Yeah, by 4 or 5 killers early in the morning when he was taking a morning walk. Now Satish Shetty, and I had the honor of knowing him, was a 12th standard dropout. But he knew how democracy works. He knew what it takes to make a democracy, and democracy in 2 simple words means nothing but people power. Demos and Krakos, Greek. So Satish Shetty uncovered huge scams and he exposed people like Sharad Pawar and others who have been kind of scamming land. Right? So what happened? He became a threat to the nation. Right? So they had to get him killed. Today there's no whistleblower protection in our country. The other whistleblowers in Punjab and all who are being marginalized by the nation, by the government. Where is the people power? You can't raise your voice against what is wrong. So is that a democracy we live in? Is that the education system that we kind of work with? So why is it that Satish Shetty, who was a 12th standard dropout, had the courage of conviction and the integrity? A. Marshall Girl spoke about integrity. But people from big schools who come out have no integrity or the learning of how this process works called democracy. We've taken democracy for granted. We've taken our freedom for granted. Anyway, I was planning to show you a video by Remo which is called India, I Cry For You. Unfortunately, we've been unable to buffer it, but you can go onto our website. It's called idishon.com. It's a citizen reporting website. And Remo is one of our Karmaveer awardees, and together we actually kind of worked on this entire issue of SEZs in Goa, because we didn't want SEZs in Goa. I'm happy to say that the only state in India where there's a stay order on SEZs. SEZs are not permitted in Goa. But what I'm going to show you is a video of how iCONGO was founded. I'm not going to speak too much about iCONGO, but iCONGO is the Indian Confederation of NGOs. We founded this 6 years ago. I'm no longer with ActionAid. I blew the whistle in ActionAid because of things going wrong. A lot of you will see children's faces which are used by NGOs to emotionally provoke you to send money. But the point is, you can't change the life of a child by giving 5,000 or 10,000 or 25,000 rupees for 2 or 3 years. You need to handhold the child and take the child to its logical conclusion to be empowered. But that's something which NGOs are not interested in doing because it's all about money, man. So that's how it works. So I kind of blew the whistle in ActionAid because I didn't want to do the child sponsorship model. And later on I got to know that some things were wrong with it. And that's actually what led to the formation of the Indian Confederation of NGOs. There are 1.7 million NGOs in the country, growing very fast. With all the other NGOs that are also kind of bundled in there, like educational societies, etc., there are around 3.3 million registered non-profits in the country. But 1.7 million NGOs which survive purely on grants and donations. Grants are taken for granted and the money is as inefficiently managed as is done within the government. Yeah? So you have huge aid coming into the country, but the aid is not being translated into action on the ground because I hardly see poverty becoming history. Make poverty history is a good slogan, not only in India, internationally. And Make Poverty History was a campaign which was led by Nelson Mandela, But at the end of it, what they saw was that 10% of the money that was raised actually reached Africa. So the same campaigners who stand outside G8 meetings and talk about writing off debt for Africa have mismanaged and misused those funds. So there's something wrong in the NGO sector, and that's why we decided to kind of form the Indian Confederation of NGOs. But the whole idea was not to kind of just work with NGOs, the whole idea was talk about social justice, yeah, and citizen action. Because we believe that until and unless the citizens of this country don't wake up, and stay awake, not just keep waking up after a 26-11, there is no change possible. So it's very simple. iCONGO is based on one simple saying, which is be the change you want to see in the world. And our basic mission is that together as one, we can right every wrong. We have no notion or illusions that we can be the change, because we can't do it alone. And we're a group of volunteers who run this. There are no paid employees. And happy to say that we've made some difference and raised over 400 crores for various NGOs. Founding principle is that we won't keep any money and we don't take donations as a principle for iCONGO. Yeah. So I'll show you a small video which is about arousing citizens.